Welcome to the Bookshop at the End of the Internet. This podcast is dedicated to helping book lovers discover new authors. Like all the best bookshops, this podcast is filled with all kinds of books and all kinds of authors. So tune in, browse around, find a new author, and discover a new favorite book at the Bookshop at the End of the Internet. I'm Stacey Horan, author, book lover, and host of the Bookshop at the End of the Internet. This is episode number 210. For more information about this or any of our episodes, go to my website, staceyhoran.com. If you enjoy the podcast, leave us a review, like us on social media, and share us with your friends, family, and fellow readers. In today's episode of the Bookshop at the End of the Internet, I'm chatting with author Ana Stanojevic about her new Fire Wave trilogy. All three books are available now: Fire Wave, Fire Burns, and Fire Ash. Ana has always loved the fantasy and superhero genres and is a big fan of Batman, which she admits was an inspiration for this trilogy. The Fire Wave novels are all about what it means to be a superhero, how to be one, and the weight of that responsibility. It is a fun mix of the superhero journey, blended with mystery, fantasy, and a little science fiction. Ana admits to almost giving up on the series while writing book number 2. She found herself losing her inspiration, but she powered through to complete the series this year. Her goal now is to one day see her Fire Wave trilogy as a series of graphic novels. In this episode, I'll chat with Ana about her writing journey, what she means by her 2-week rule for writing her stories, and her gratitude to those readers who are willing to take a chance on her books, as well as a few other things coming up. Ana Stanojevic, thank you very much for joining me today on the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
I thought what we could do today is start by talking about your new trilogy, which you have just completed this year, the Fire Wave trilogy. If you don't mind, tell us a little bit about this series. What do we need to know before we pick up book 1? Give us a little bit of an overview, if you don't mind, and then I want to talk about the inspiration for the series.
So Fire Wave is all about what it means to be a superhero and how does it take to be one, and just basically how our main character Ayana, she is struggling as she is becoming a superhero, and she has to face all these hardships because there's also a villain that she also has to face as well, and she has to figure out who they are and why are they here, as well as meeting some friends like the commissioner that plays a heavy role in that trilogy as well.
Okay, so what was the spark of inspiration for you for this series?
I actually got this idea when I went to Greece. So it was just a nice little vacation, and then the name just popped into my head. So I thought it'd be a really cool story to tell. I am also a really big fan of Batman. So I kind of compare the two just a little bit, just because I really like Batman as well. He is also my main inspiration for the trilogy as well.
So let's talk about book 1, which is titled Fire Wave. Without giving away too many spoilers, set this book up for us, because I want to talk a bit about your character's journey through the 3 books. So what do we need to know about book 1?
And so book 1 is all about being curiosity because we are meeting Ayana, who is a chemical analyst, and she got curious because there's these mysterious trails that have been left behind, and she wants to figure out where these trails are coming from. So she eventually figures everything out and as the time goes on, and then she meets the big bad guy at the almost halfway of the book. Even at the beginning as well, she actually gets a glimpse of the big villain as well. So because of that, she wants to know who that villain is, and that's why she became a superhero.
Okay. And then so how do you did you did you know when you set out to write book one that this was going to be a trilogy, or at the time were you just focused on writing and completing book one?
So I actually knew way ahead of time that this was going to be a trilogy. I knew exactly how to start. I knew exactly how to end. It was just a matter of like actually writing down the story itself. So I knew everything, how it's gonna flow, and I knew also as well for like ideas for the book cover as well. I knew how each of them are gonna look like. So yeah, I just knew that it's gonna be a trilogy from the start.
Okay. So when we leave the character, your main character at the end of book one, what do we need to know then going into book two? How does she grow? How does she develop?
So book two is really it's really heavy. Like it's like she's facing all kinds of hardships and betrayals. So it's actually a really heavy book. So please be careful while going into it. But she's doing it like really hard. And it's also about torturing her mind and her sanity. So it's a really heavy book as well. So please keep in mind as you want to read the trilogy.
Okay. And then into book three, anything our readers should know about that one, other than
Yes,
the fact that the story gets wrapped up.
yes. So book three is also heavy as well, but it kind of at the halfway of the book it kind of lifts up, but then immediately goes back to being heavy as well. So also please be careful about it. There's also a lot of like mind controlling as well, so it will trigger some people, but yeah, so it does wraps up pretty darkly. It's not a happy ending at all, but I think Ayana really did learn what it means to be a superhero. So yeah, it was a tough book to write. And there's also going to be like some emotions being pulled.
You talk a lot about the main character. Obviously, she's the main focus of the book, but I'm curious if you had amongst the three books, were there any other characters? Did you have maybe another one that was a favorite, either because you just really liked the character, or maybe it was a villain and you just loved to write that character? Did you have any other favorites?
Yeah, I really like my main villain, Obsidian. I love writing about her. I thought she was just really like just a great character. So book three like really focuses on the main villain as well. But I just love writing about her. I might even write a prequel for the main villain as to why she came to Earth and what happened to her home planet. So I think that's a fun idea, but she was just really fun to write about. I really loved her a lot. She's just so sassy and snappy. So I love her powers. Like I based her powers on the rock Obsidian, and that's how I got her name, Obsidia. So she's just like a volcanic based powers. So it's really fun to write about her.
Well, let's talk a little bit about that. I'm curious about the sort of world building you had to do for this story. And that included things like what sort of powers your characters were going to have, what the limitations were going to be, what rules they all had to follow. Did you decide all of that before you started writing, or did you have to make some of it up as you went along and as the story developed?
So it was half and half. I actually based Ivan City, which is what the city they live in. That is based off from Toronto. So it was supposed to be like a whole futuristic kind of city, but that kind of fell back, and I had to change some of the stuff because it didn't really fit in as how I was writing. But yeah, I did also have to make up some rules as I went along. There was also a lot of changes as well, just to fit my narrative of the story. but some things were also kept from my original plan. But yeah, most of it was just a lot of changes.
So I'm curious because you mentioned that one of the main influences for the story was your love of Batman. When you were planning this book, envisioning how the story would flow, was it always a novel? Did you always see it as three novels in this trilogy, or were the at least initial concept did it come to you as more of, I don't know, a comic book or a graphic novel? Like, how did you picture it in your mind?
So eventually, I actually did want to make it as a graphic novel, but because I'm like starting this whole new career for me, I thought I might as well give it a go as a novel. But I actually do really see it as a graphic novel instead of a actual novel. Like the way how it was written and the way how like the tone, the vibes, it just felt as more of a graphic novel.
Is that something you hope to maybe transform it into someday?
Yeah, someday it'll be really cool to have it as graphic novel.
What are your writing influences? It sounds like superheroes and fantasy, that those types of things inspired you greatly for this series. Are those the kinds of things you normally gravitate to in your own reading?
Yeah, so definitely. Superhero, fantasy, those are the genres I have loved. I loved fantasy a lot. I've been reading it so much, so I just love that genre. There is a little bit of sci-fi in it too, which is funny because originally my main villain, Obsidian, she actually wasn't supposed to be an alien, but somehow she ended up being one. And so I was writing out. So there's a little bit of everything. And then there's like mystery and there's crime investigation and there's just, superhero, fantasy, sci-fi, all in one.
So that's a lot to tackle. I mean,
Yeah.
at least you had a series in which to do it. You had three books rather than trying to fit it all into just one. But that's a lot to keep track of, I would
Yeah.
imagine, to make sure you're spending time for all of those on all of those things.
Yeah. And there was just no way this could be into one book. It had to be a trilogy. There's just so much to unpack.
How long did it take you to write it from that initial idea to finally releasing the third book this year?
Oh, the first book actually took me 3 months, but I had to take a break from it. Think I actually love to follow a rule, which is a 2 week rule. So what it does is like leave the book for 2 weeks and then after 2 weeks come back with fresh open eyes. It works wonderful for me, so I love using that a lot. So with that, it was actually about with going editing as well, it's about maybe 5 months in total for the whole book to be finished and edited and to be as clean as it can be. So I think also book two, and that one actually took me a little bit longer. That's because I had some trouble writing with it. I wasn't sure what was going to happen in some of the chapters. So I did have to take like a complete break from it. But otherwise, the third book, that one's actually really easy for me to write. I had really so much fun writing that one. So that one's about, I would say also 3 months, but again, with all the editing, it's about 5, 6 months.
Yeah. What is your favorite part of the process? I mean, do you like the drafting part? Are you a fan of editing? Do you plot everything out? Is that your favorite part before you even start writing? Are you a pantser? Is it just coming up with ideas on the spot in the moment? What is your favorite part of the process?
I like to plan. I am a planner, so I have to plan, otherwise nothing will make sense at all. So I actually tried to not plan, but it just didn't work out. I got too frustrated. So I have to plan in order to know what's going to happen and how everything is going to be connected in the end. So the more I plan out, the better the story will be, and I think that's just great because it feels more fleshed out and and it does make way more sense in that way. And so, yeah, I'm more of a planner.
You've got these three books now. What did you find to be the biggest challenge in writing them? Was there something that surprised you that you weren't expecting?
Oh, I think like actually finishing the entire trilogy. I actually wanted to give up about halfway of the second book. Like there were just so many challenges writing it. I was really stuck on writing them. So I kind of wanted to give up. I almost lost my inspiration for writing it. And yeah, it was actually really hard for me to finish the trilogy, but I'm glad I didn't. So yeah.
I'm sure readers are glad too. Well, was writing always something that you wanted to do, or is this a journey you embarked on just when you had this idea on that family vacation in Greece?
I want to write, become an author since the age of 18. I am now 28, so I've been wanting to be an author for a really long time, but I just didn't do it until the age of 24. That was when I officially wanted to start writing my books. Mainly because I just wanted to focus on school and get a stable job. So that's why it kind of took me a while. But I'm glad how everything turned out. I don't think I would have changed it. But yeah, I also started writing fan fiction back in the day. I still have my account. I still did not actually finish some of the stories, but that's okay. So yeah, I've been wanting to be an author for a really long time.
Well, now that you have this trilogy complete, what other goals do you have for yourself as a writer?
I really want to grow more, like writing wise, author wise. I just want to grow in every aspect of my career and just to continue to write more books and hopefully reach readers globally. I think that'll be really nice and continue to working on my new series that I'm writing right now. I just finished writing my new book of the series, so that's exciting. But yeah, I'm hoping to write more books in the future.
So the new series you've started, is it something similar? Superheroes, fantasy, science fiction?
No, it's actually more magic, like it has magic, magical realism. It's still fantasy, and I also have been inspired by Harry Potter, so I'm really excited to write that series.
Now that you're on this journey, now that you've been bitten by the writing bug, what do you find to be the best part of it for you?
Sharing my stories with the readers, I've been so thankful that everyone's given me a chance because like being a self-publisher is hard. Like I feel like almost no one's like taking us seriously because we are seen as amateurs, but I'm really glad that I have readers who's willingly to take a chance on me and to support me. So I'm really glad I have that.
Good. Well, if people want to learn more about you and your books and look for new releases and follow along with what's happening in your world, where can they go to find that information?
They can go on my Instagram, AnnieKatie58. I also just released my title reveal for my first book. It's called The Bounded Curse. So you can find all the juicy gossip on my Instagram and as well on my website, which is linked in my bio as well. And I also have a YouTube channel where I process like all my vlogs, which is Clown Books. So yeah.
Good. And if people want to purchase a copy of the Fire Wave trilogy, book one, Fire Wave, book two, Fire Burns, book three, Fire Ash, if they want to hopefully purchase all of them, where can they go to buy them?
So right now they are ebooks and you can go on kobo.ca and amazon.com. But also after my Fire Wave trilogy, I am actually having my new book to come out as physical as well. That will also be on Amazon when it comes out.
Great. Well, Anna, I want to thank you very much for joining me today on the podcast. And I want to wish you luck with the Fire Wave trilogy and your new series. We'll be very excited to read that. So, congratulations on everything you've accomplished so far, and best of luck with the rest of your writing journey.
Thank you so much for having me.
The Bookshop at the End of the Internet is a podcast dedicated to helping book lovers discover new authors. Like any good bookshop, this podcast features a wide variety of books by the equally varied and interesting authors who felt compelled to write them. This podcast gives you a chance to meet these wonderful writers and discover your next must-read book. Listen to the authors describe their books and tell you their stories in their own words. My interviews feature books from all genres and authors from all walks of life, including those who are indie published as well as those published by small presses and large publishing houses. Looking for unique, not so easy to find books for yourself, a friend, or a book club? Tune into this podcast and find your newest favorite author or maybe a soon-to-be bestseller. This podcast, like all the best bookshops, is filled with all kinds of books and all kinds of authors. Tune in, browse around, find a new author, and discover a new favorite book. You never know what treasures you might find in the Bookshop at the End of the Internet.